President and very distinguished Senator Hashim Shettima GCON, my brother, the Right Honorable Speaker of the People's House, the House of Representatives, Right Honorable Tajuddin Abbas GCON, the Deputy Senate President, the Deputy Speaker, the principal officers of both chambers, our subnational leaders, the governors of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, led by the chairman of the Governors Forum and the governor of Kwara State, the governor of the APC, the governors of all the parties in Nigeria, particularly those who have become to join the Progressive Governors Forum, led by Governor Minor of Akwa Ibom State, the Chief of Staff and former Speaker, the Bajabia Amila, the distinguished Secretary to the Government of the Federation, our very hardworking ministers, the National Chairman of the largest party in Africa, Professor Nentawe Yodawa, and all the other party chieftains and leaders across the nation. Invited guests, clerk of the National Assembly, the clerk of the Senate, the clerk of the House of Representatives, the service chiefs, particularly members of Mr. President's entourage, gentlemen of the press. The protocol may not be in order, but please know that Almighty God has recognized your presence in these chambers. Can we say amen? Mr. President, this is the joint sitting of the National Assembly that happens very rarely in the history of our democracy. So we welcome you. Myself, my brother, the members, the senators, the Joint National Assembly, we welcome you to this sitting. This is not your first time. You have had to address us in even periods that had nothing to do with the budget. So today, we assemble not merely to fulfill a constitutional requirement, Mr. President, but to engage in a defining national conversation about our priorities as a people, our responsibilities as leaders, and our collective resolve to build a stronger and a more just future for generations to come. Your Excellency, our dear President, on behalf of the entirety of the National Assembly, once again, I welcome you, and I thank you for always keeping to time, because this is unprecedented. I congratulate you. The members insist I should say so. You almost took us by surprise. This is your political birthplace, the cradle of your public service journey, and the crucible in which your leadership was tested, refined, and ultimately forged for national destiny. We equally extend our warm felicitations to our dear Vice President, himself a veteran of this chamber, who shares the history and memory of this hallowed chamber with you. We offer a warm and fraternal welcome to the Secretary to Government, another member of this hallowed chamber, members of the Federal Executive Council, our dear governors, your presence here before the Parliament of your nation underscores the fundamental truth of democratic governance, that progress is forged when institutions work in concert, when authority is exercised with accountability, and when leadership listens, engages, and leads with courage and clarity of purpose. Many in our country view the patriotic, collaborative work between the National Assembly and the executive arm of government as a sellout by the Parliament. But history is unambiguous on one enduring lesson. Nations advance when the executive and the legislature work in concert, and they falter when the two become locked in hostilities. In the United States, the era of Franklin Roosevelt, New Deal stands as a classic illustration. Faced with the Great Depression, an aligned Congress partnered with the executive to pass sweeping legislative reforms in the banking sector, in social security, infrastructure, investment, that stabilized the economy and reshaped American society for generations to come. Similarly, post-war Britain, United Kingdom, witnessed remarkable reconstruction because Parliament and the government of Clement Attlee, the then Prime Minister, acted with shared purpose, creating the National Health Service, rebuilding a shattered nation. In each case, progress flowed out from unanimity of opinions, but from institutional cooperation, anchored in a common national interest. It is pertinent to note, Mr. President, that history has often distilled its lessons into simple truths. One of them is this: great nations are not built by perfect conditions, but by leaders who make hard choices together with their parliaments.
Du bist im Urlaub und ausgerechnet jetzt hat sich deine Mitarbeiterin, die sich um die Löhne kümmert, krank gemeldet. Doch zum Glück gibt es jetzt Lexware Office. Damit kannst du die Lohnabrechnungen eben schnell selber machen. Denn egal wo du gerade bist, alles in 5 Minuten online erledigt und sogar alle Überweisungen sind mit einem Klick abgeschickt. Damit kannst du deinen Urlaub genießen und der Rest läuft ganz von alleine. Lexware Office. Jetzt unverbindlich testen.
Möchtest du deine Website erstellen, indem du sie einfach beschreibst? Mit Wix kannst du's. Lass uns bei den KI-Farbdesigns anfangen. Alles ist möglich. Knallig leuchtend, minimalistisch, elegant oder etwas, woran du gar nicht gedacht hättest. Beschreibe einfach die gewünschte Stimmung oder nimm deine Logofarben und überlasse der KI den Rest. Großartig. Jetzt kommt die KI-Abschnittserstellung. Das ist perfekt für die Website Basics, wie den Kontaktabschnitt oder einen Abo-Button. Ich mache gerade einen Sale. Ich gebe ein paar Details ein und schon habe ich meinen Promo-Abschnitt. Funktioniert und sieht toll aus. Perfekt. Jetzt die KI-Texterstellung. Ich brauche ein paar Produktbeschreibungen. Ich gebe meine Keywords ein und das sind Inhalte, die ankommen. Wenn du bereit bist für dein eigenes Projekt, komm zu Wix.
Navigated a period of significant transition in the midst of very difficult challenges. Families have felt the strain of rising costs. Businesses have adjusted to changing economic environment, Young Nigerians have asked hard and legitimate questions about opportunities, fairness, and their place in the nation's future. Insecurity has tested our collective resolve and reminded us that peace is not a gift that we inherit, but a responsibility that we must constantly defend. Yet, history also teaches us something enduring. Nigeria does not retreat in the face of difficulty, Mr. President. We confront difficulties. We confront it with resilience forged in adversity, with faith in our shared destiny, and with an unyielding belief that tomorrow can be better than today. From one generation to the next, this country has survived storms, not by surrendering to despair, but by standing together, reforming what must be reformed, and renewing our commitment to justice, inclusivity, and progress. This is not a season for cynicism. It's a season for optimism. Not a moment for resignation, but a call to responsibility by government, by institutions, and by citizens alike. Every challenge before us is also an invitation to build a more equitable economy, to secure our communities, to restore trust in public life, and to ensure that the promise of Nigeria is not postponed, but delivered today. The 2025 budget was introduced at a moment that demanded uncommon courage. It required confronting structural weaknesses long postponed, and it is important to place on record that the progress we are now witnessing under your administration, sir, has been achieved despite persistent skepticisms, relentless criticisms, and the loud objections of naysayers, and traducers, who doubted both the necessity and the result of these reforms. These were difficult decisions, yet necessary ones, and they reflect a leadership willing to choose a long-term national interest over short-term benefits and comforts. As a result, we are now witnesses to measurable gains. Government revenues are improving. Public finance is being managed with greater discipline and transparency. Strategic investments in infrastructure, energy, agriculture, name them, human capital, are laying a firmer foundation for sustainable growth in our dear country. Nigeria is regaining confidence within its borders and in the eyes of the international community. Over the last 1 year, the 10th Senate, working in concert with the National Assembly, its brothers, has recorded one of the highest levels of legislative output in the history of our nation, passing record number of bills, including landmark legislations on security, economic reform, governance, judicial administration, electoral integrity, infrastructure development, and social protection. Some immense outcomes of this legislative productivity are bills that have fundamentally reshaped Nigeria's reform architecture. The Senate, working with the House of Representatives, passed critical security sector legislations that strengthen coordination among security agencies, enhance intelligence sharing, and reinforce the legal framework for combating terrorism, banditry, and transnational crimes. Far-reaching economic and fiscal reforms. Those bills provided statutory backing for subsidy rationalization, public finance discipline, revenue mobilization, improved accountability in the management of national resources, landmark governance, and judicial sector legislation modernize court administrations, improve access to justice, reduce procedural delays, and strengthen the independence and efficiency of key democratic institutions. Electoral and political process reforms are also being looked into to deepen the transparency, save electoral integrity, and reinforce public confidence in democratic outcomes. In addition, transformative infrastructure, energy, and social protection legislation laid the legal framework and foundation for accelerated capital inflow into our dear country. The power sector reform, housing delivery, targeted support for the vulnerables, collective decisions, not merely adding to the statute books, but translating reform and intent into enforceable policy, stabilized governance, providing the legal scaffolding upon which your government is recovering the long-lost trust that Nigerians had for government. Prosperity is on the way under your renewed hope agenda, Mr. President. Progress still must be translated into prosperity, as you keep saying. Too many Nigerians continue to struggle with the cost of living. Too many young people seek dignified employment. Too many communities remain burdened by insecurity. Whenever we lose anyone to insecurity, a senator, a representative, or anyone of our constituents, we share in the pain of the bereaved families. And you do so too, through the various visits that you have made to the Middle Belt and other places, Mr. President. Very painfully, I want to say, may the souls of all those who have lost their lives due to terrorism and organized attack on our country rest in perfect peace. We do not see these tragedies as mere distant statistics, but as human lives, fathers and mothers, sons and daughters, whose safety is the first duty of your administration, both at the national level and at transnational level. That is why the National Assembly remains committed to partnering with you, to working closely with you, to strengthen the legal and budgetary frameworks that support our security agencies, enhancing oversight to ensure accountability, and working in concert with the executive to confront the roots of insecurity with clarity, firmness, and compassion. Nation building is not the work of one man or one institution. It is a collective endeavor that requires patience, sacrifice, and unity of purpose. I enjoin all Nigerians that they should continue to support the patriotic efforts of your administration. Also, I assure Nigerians that the devil you see today, you shall soon see them no more. We must continue to save with heart and might and represent them with all our strength. Let us pause here and congratulate our President, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. One, for your prompt response to the call to defend democracy in our neighboring state of Benin Republic. You responded to that call, Mr. President, and that country is at peace. Congratulations. You made every Nigerian and every Democrat in the world proud. When freedom is threatened anywhere, freedom is at risk everywhere. So, Mr. President, the path of reform is rarely comfortable, but it is the only path that leads forward. Be encouraged. The National Assembly stands ready to work with you. We are working with you to strengthen the works that you are doing, to refine what must change, and to ensure that every naira appropriated serves the people who earn it. Many of us from agrarian societies know the story of the baobab tree. No single man plants it for himself, and no single generation enjoys its full shade. It is planted by those who may never sit beneath it, for it takes decades, sometimes centuries, to reach maturity. Yet it is planted all the same by patriots, because posterity will one day share and shed the shelter. The planters ensure and endure the labor. Those who come after enjoy the comfort, but the village prospers because everyone agrees to protect it and to water the tree. That is the spirit of the renewed hope agenda. That is the meaning, the demands of budgeting. It is not about the applause of today, but the shade of tomorrow. Not about our labor, but who will benefit. It is only when leadership and institutions act together as planters, not spectators, that the tree of national prosperity can truly grow. We welcome you, Mr. President. To fellow Nigerians, our national...
Bin Autohero! Geht Auto kaufen endlich einfach! Das machst du nebenbei! Wow, super Preis! Und du kannst ganz entspannt bleiben, denn du bekommst eine 21-Tage-Geld-Zurück-Garantie. Autohero. Auto kaufen, endlich einfach.
Es ist an der Zeit, sich von alten Gewohnheiten zu verabschieden. Mit der intuitiven Plattform von Monday.com kannst du die Arbeit genau so organisieren, wie es dir und deinem Team passt. Du kannst zum Beispiel benutzerdefinierte Felder hinzufügen und ganz einfach auswählen, wie du deine Arbeit anzeigen lassen möchtest. Deshalb vertrauen weltweit über 225.000 Unternehmen auf Monday.com, weil du die Freiheit hast, alles genau so zu gestalten, wie du es dir vorstellst. The first work platform you love to use. Monday.com.
May God bless our National Assembly.
Thank you very much. Please be seated. The Senate President, the Speaker, the Vice President, the House, the remark of the Senate President has gotten me relaxed and happy to be back in a club of great people, great minds, great thinkers, and the essence of our democracy. Members of the cabinet that are here, Your Excellencies, the governors, past and present, members of this honorable Hallowed Chamber. It's good to be back. To a well-familiar terrain. Ladies and gentlemen, and fellow Nigerians, I am here today to fulfill an essential constitutional obligation by presenting the 2026 appropriation bill to this esteemed joint session of the National Assembly for your consideration. Before I go any further, let me be upfront with you. This is a reset, a very hard one. Avoiding abandoned projects, unpaid contractual obligations, and running a multiple budget, both inherited and unfulfilled mandates. It's a problem staring the nation. So we are terminating the habit of running 3 budgets on one inflow. By March 31st, 2026, all capital liabilities from previous years will be fully funded and closed. From April Nigeria operates on a single budget, backed by a single revenue cycle. No overlaps, no excuses, no rollovers culture. This budget presents a defining moment in our national journey of reform and transformation. Over the last 2.5 years, the government has methodically confronted long-standing structural weaknesses, stabilized our economy, rebuild confidence, and lay a durable foundation for the construction of a more resilient, inclusive, and dynamic Nigeria. Though necessary, the reforms have not been painless. Families and businesses have faced pressure. Established systems have been disrupted and tested. The budget execution has been tested as well. I acknowledge these difficulties fairly. Yet I'm here today to assure Nigerians that their sacrifices are not in vain. We are already out of that dark tunnel of uncertainty, economic volatility, and lack of inclusiveness. Economy, I'm proud, has turned the corner. Though the path of reform is seldom smooth, but it is the surest route to lasting stability and shared prosperity. Today, I present a budget that consolidates our gains, strengthens our resilience, and takes this country from out of the dark tunnel of hopelessness, from the survivor to growth. The 2026 budget is themed budget of consolidation, renewed resilience, and shared prosperity. It reflects our determination to lock in macroeconomic stability, deepen competitiveness, and ensure that growth translates into decent jobs, rising incomes, and a better quality of life across every corner of Nigeria and for every Nigerian. Mr. Chairman, the leadership of the National Assembly, while the global outlook continues to improve, this budget aims to further strengthen our Nigerian economy to benefit all our citizens. I am encouraged that our reform efforts are already yielding measurable results. One, our economy grew by 3.98% in the third quarter of year 2025, up from 3.86% in the third quarter of year 2024, year in, year out. Inflation has moderated for 8 consecutive months, with headline inflation declining to 14.45% in March 2025. With stabilizing food and energy prices, tighter monetary conditions, improving supply responses, we expect the deflationary trend to persist over the year 2026 or rising, barring major supply shocks. Item 3, oil production has improved, supported by enhanced security, technology development, and sector reforms. 4, not all revenues have expanded significantly through better tax administration. Thank you for passing the tax bill. Investor confidence is returning, reflected in capital inflow, renewed project financing, and strong private sector participation. Our external reserve rose to a 7-year high of about $47 billion as of last month. That provides over 10 months of import cover and a more substantial buffer against shocks. These outcomes are not accidental or luck. They are the consequence of our difficult policy choices. Our next objective is to deepen our gains in the pursuit of enduring and inclusive Distinguished members, our 2025 budget implementation faced the reality of a transition and competing execution demands. As of the third quarter, 18.6 trillion naira in revenue, representing 61% of our target. That's poor. And 24.66 trillion naira in expenditure, representing 60% of our target. Following the extension of the 2024 capital budget execution, the December 2025, a total of 2.23 trillion naira was released for implementation of the 2024 projects as of June 2025. While physical challenges persisted, the government met its key obligations. All key obligations are met. However, only 3.10 trillion naira, about 17% of 2025 capital budget, was released as of the third quarter, reflecting the emphasis on completing priority projects. All the 2024 capital projects during the transition period. Let me be clear, 2026 will be a year of stronger discipline in budget execution. I have issued directives to the Honorable Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy, the Honorable Minister of Budget and Economic Planning, the Accountant General of the Federation, and the Director General of the Budget Office of the Federation to ensure that the 2026 budget is implemented strictly in line with appropriated details and timelines. We expect improved revenue performance through the new year. The new National Tax Act and the ongoing reform in the oil and gas sector. Reform designed not merely to raise revenue, but to drive transparency, efficiency, fairness, and long-term value in our physical architecture. I've also provided clear and direct guidance regarding government-owned enterprises. Head of all agencies have been directed to meet their assigned revenue target. To support this, we will deploy end-to-end digitization of revenue mobilization. Standardized e-collections, interoperable payment rails, automated reconciliation, data-driven risk profiling, and real-time performance dashboard. So leakages are sealed, compliance is verifiable, and remittances are prompt. These targets will form core components of performance evaluation and institutional scorecards. Nigeria can no longer afford leakages, inefficiencies, or underperformance in strategic agencies. Every institution must play its part and play it effectively. Mr. Chairman and fellow Nigerians, the 2026 budget is guided by 4 clear objectives. 1, consolidate macroeconomic stability, improve the businesses and business environment, investment environment, and all of that together. Promote job-rich growth and reduce poverty, and strengthen human capital development while protecting the vulnerable. In short, we will spend with purpose, manage debt with discipline, and pursue broad-based sustainable growth. Distinguished leaders or members, the 2026 federal budget is anchored on realism, prudence, and growth. The key aggregates are as follows. Expected total revenue is 34.33 trillion naira. Projected total expenditure is 58.18 trillion naira, including 15.52 trillion naira for debt servicing. Recurrent non-debt expenditure is 15.2 trillion naira. Capital expenditure will be 26.08 trillion. The budget deficit is expected to be 23.85 trillion naira, representing just 4.28% of our GDP. These numbers are not mere accounting lines. They are a statement of national priorities. We will remain firmly committed to fiscal sustainability, debt transparency, and value for money spending. The year 2026 to 2088 medium-term expenditure framework and fiscal strategy paper set the parameters for this budget. Our projections are based on 1, a conservative crude oil benchmark of US $64.85 per barrel. 2, crude oil production of 1.8 million barrels per day. And 3, an average exchange rate of 1.4 naira to the US dollar for the 2026 fiscal year. We will continue to reduce waste, strengthen controls, excuse me, strengthen controls, and ensure that every Nigerian borrowed or spent delivers measurable public value. Our allocation reflects the renewed hope agenda and the practical needs of Nigerians. Key sectorial provisions. Key sectorial provisions include defense, security. Defense and security will take 5.41 trillion naira. Infrastructure will follow with 3.56 trillion naira. Education will follow with 3.52 trillion naira. Health and social services will be 2.48 trillion naira. These priorities are interlinked. Without security, investment will not thrive. Without education and healthy citizens, productivity will not rise. Without infrastructure, jobs and enterprises will not scale. This budget is therefore designed to provide a single coherent program of national renewal, a national security and peace building. National security remains the foundation of development. The 2026 budget strengthens support for modernization of armed forces, intelligence-driven pricing and joint operations, border security, and technology-enabled surveillance and community-based peace building and conflict prevention. We will invest in security with clear accountability for outcomes, because security spending must deliver results to secure our country. Our priority will remain on increasing the fighting capability.
Ein besonderer Moment war auf jeden Fall, die erste eigene Mitarbeiterin anzustellen. Ja, und dann wollte ich irgendwann auch
Forces with cutting-edge equipment and other hardware. We will show no mercy. We will usher in a new era of criminal justice. We will show no mercy, I repeat, to those who commit or support acts of terrorism, banditry, kidnapping for ransom, and other violent crimes. Our administration is resetting the national security architecture and establishing a new national counterterrorism doctrine, a holistic redesign anchored on unified command, intelligence gathering, community stability, and counter-insurgency. This doctrine will fundamentally change how we confront terrorism and other violent crimes. Under this new architecture, any armed group or gun-wielding non-state actors operating outside the state authority will be regarded as terrorists. Bandits, militia, armed gangs, armed robbers, violent cults, forest-based armed groups, and foreign-linked mercenaries will all be targeted. We will go after all those who perpetrated violence for political or sectarian ends, along with those who finance and facilitate their evil schemes. On our human capital development, education and health, no nation can grow beyond the quality of its people. The 2026 budget strengthens investment in education, skills, healthcare, and social protection. In education, we are expanding access to higher education through the Nigerian Education Loan Fund. Over 780,000 students have been supported in partnership with 229 tertiary institutions nationwide. In healthcare, I'm pleased to highlight the investment in 6% of the total budget size, net of liabilities. I repeat, 6% of the total budget size, net of liability in healthcare infrastructure. We also appreciate the support of international partners, recent high-level engagements with the government of the United States. It has opened the door to a $500 million US dollars for health intervention across Nigeria. We welcome this partnership and assure Nigerians that these resources will be deployed transparently and effectively. The economy and productivity. Across the nation, projects of all shapes and sizes are moving from vision to reality. Go around, you will see it yourself. These include transport and energy infrastructure, port modernization, agricultural reform, and strategic investment to unlock private capital. We will take decisive steps to strengthen agricultural markets. Food security shall remain a national priority. The 2026 budget focuses on input financing and mechanization, irrigation and climate resilient agriculture, storage and processing, and agro-value chain. This measure will reduce post-harvest losses, improve incomes for small-scale holders, deepen our skill, deepen agro-industrialization, and build a more resilient, diversified economy. In year 2026, the Bank of Agriculture plans to plant confidence back into our soil. Mechanizing through 7 regional hubs, protecting harvest with fair prices and substantial reserves, providing affordable finance to millions of small holders and growing export value. Under the plan, Nigerian farmers will cultivate 1 million hectares, create hundreds of thousands of jobs, and prove that prosperity can rise through better use of our God-given land. On procurement, starting in November last year, the government has embarked upon a comprehensive framework of procurement reforms. These reforms have enhanced efficiency and generated significant cost savings for the government, resulting in reduced processing times for government contracts and better enforcement procedures directed against erring contractors and government officials. Our Nigeria First policy has been established to encourage self-sufficiency and sustainable growth within Nigeria by promoting domestic products and businesses, by mandating that all ministries, departments, and agencies of government, the MDAs, consider Nigeria-made goods and local companies as their primary option. The policy aims to support local industries, create job opportunities, and reduce dependency on imported items. This bold new approach is expected to enhance the competitiveness of Nigerian enterprises, foster innovation, and ultimately contribute to the country's overall economic development. Distinguished members and fellow Nigerians, the most significant budget is not the one we announce, it is the one we deliver. Therefore, 2026 will be guided by 3 practical commitments: better revenue mobilization through efficiency, transparency, and compliance; better spending by prioritizing projects that can be completed, measured, and felt by the citizens; better accountability through strengthening of procurement discipline, monitoring, and reporting. We will build trust by matching our votes with results and our allocations with outcomes. Dear honorable members, distinguished senators, members of the National Assembly, and fellow Nigerians, the 2026 budget is not a budget of promises. It is a budget of consolidation, renewed resilience, shared prosperity, and it is built on reform of the past 2.5 years. It addresses the emerging challenges and sets a clear path towards a more secured, more competitive, more equitable, and more hopeful Nigeria. I commend the people of this country for their understanding, resilience, and my administration remains committed to easing the burdens of the transition to a more stable, prosperous nation. We promise to make sure that the benefits of the reform reach households and communities across the Federation. In united purpose between the executive and the legislature, and with the resilience.
Du willst wissen, wie viel dein Auto wert ist? Dann geh auf wirkaufendeinauto.de und spar.
Of renewed hope agenda. It is therefore my great pleasure that I lay before this distinguished joint session of the National Assembly the 2026 appropriation bill of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, titled Budget of Consolidation, Renewed Resilience, and Shared Prosperity. I seek your partnership in charting the nation's fiscal course for the coming year. May God bless you all. Bless the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Keep our armed forces safe. And thank you very much.